Hi, good evening to one and all. I welcome you to my third video session. Before I start off with my lecture, let me answer a few questions raised by my students from Presidency College. They said that, how about discussing few questions, that is PYQs for UGC NET. Likewise, some students for CA, ICWAI, so on and so forth. See, what I would say is that let us try to understand the core content of the subject of economics, and then let us start probing into various types of questions that has been raised in various competitive examination. I think that would meet your answer, isn't it? Now let us move on to the lecture. In the previous lecture, we did introduce you to the subject of economics. We discussed the historical background, the way in which the subject of economics had its birth. And thereafter, we looked at certain basic concepts like economics and an economy. And we did discuss as what is economics and what is an economy. And we also discussed about the difference between these two terms. Today, we shall discuss as to how the subject of economics has been defined. So, we'll take up the various definitions, okay, on the basis of which the subject of economics has been defined. As we have already stated, the subject of economics has been defined from fourfold perspectives: wealth, welfare, scarcity, growth and development, isn't it? Definitions. Let us first take up the wealth definition, isn't it? In the earlier period, people regarded economics as what? A study of production and consumption of wealth. The earlier economist regarded economics as what? A study of what? Production and consumption of wealth. What did they mean by this? That is, as you know that the very basic existence of life is what? To win your bread, isn't it? To win your bread, you have to engage in economic activities. The question arises as to what is an economic activity, isn't it? Wherein you tend to engage yourself in production, consumption and distribution. This we call it as what? An economic activity. So, to win our bread, as we engage in economic activity, it results in what? Flow of income. As flow of income takes place, it results in what? Generation of wealth. So, how to increase our wealth? So, if we happen to study about the process about it, that they regard it as what? A study of economics. In the year 1776, the science of economics had its birth. As a result of whom? Adam Smith. As a result of whom? Adam Smith, through his publication, magnum opus, which was called as what? An inquiry into the nature and causes of wealth of nations. I am repeating it. The name of the publication is what? An inquiry into the nature and cause of wealth of nations. I am repeating it. The science of economics had its birth in the year 1776 through the publication of Adam Smith's magnum opus, titled as what? An inquiry into the nature and cause of wealth of nations. This was the title of his publication. And the next question arises, how did he define economics? The definition is also one and the same. He regarded economics as what, or defined it as what? An inquiry into the nature and cause of wealth of nations. The title of his publication and his definition both were one and the same. And he regarded, Adam Smith regarded economics as what? A study of wealth. A study of wealth. So what does he mean by that? He also gives the same explanation. See, the basic objective of any life is what? To win your bread, isn't it? To win your bread, you engage yourself in various types of economic activities. This results in what? Flow of income. As flow of income takes place, it automatically results in what? Generation of wealth. So, an inquiry as to how, we generate or increase our wealth was regarded as what? The subject of economics. This was told by whom? Adam Smith. And we regard him as what? Father of economics. We regard him as what? Father of economics. Isn't it? So, economics was looked at in a very narrow perspective, not only by the father of economics, but also by a number of other early classical thinkers, and another popular definition that was given by a popular economist by name J.S. Mill. He also regarded economics as what? A practical science that is concerned with production and distribution of wealth. So, the subject of economics was looked upon in a very narrow perspective to mean what? Generation of wealth. How can you generate wealth? Isn't it? You have to save. You have to save. So, as you tend to save, this results in what? Greediness for money. So, people started condemning this branch of knowledge as what? A science which is teaching us what? Selfishness for money or greediness for money. So, the subject was looked upon in a very narrow perspective. So, had the term economics been looked upon in a broader sense to mean goods and services, scarce goods and services to satisfy human wants, then perhaps there would not have been much criticism about this definition. But unfortunately, the term economics was looked in a very narrow perspective. That resulted in criticizing the subject of economics, isn't it? From different perspectives. Why at all do we need to earn income? To win our bread. So they condemned this branch of knowledge as what? A bread and butter science. A bread and butter science. Since this branch of knowledge was concerned about as to how to generate your wealth, they said that can this be regarded as a separate branch of knowledge wherein we are going to study only about as to how we are going to generate our wealth. So they said that it's a dark and dismal science, which means it does not have much of its scope. So slowly the subject starts to die. As we have already stated that science of economics had its birth in the year 1776. Within a period of 100 years of time, isn't it? The subject starts to die. That is by 1876. It was at that time a great economist by name Alfred Marshall. He emerges and he lifts the science of economics to the state of affairs as to what we are seeing it today. Now let us look at as to how Alfred Marshall defines economics. Alfred Marshall. Alfred Marshall, he condemns the wealth definition given by whom? Adam Smith. He says economics is not a study of wealth, rather it's a study of welfare. What aspect of welfare? Materialistic welfare. Is that clear? I am repeating it. Alfred Marshall condemns the wealth definition given by whom? Adam Smith. He says economics is not a study of what? Wealth. Rather, it's a study of welfare. But what aspect of welfare? The materialistic welfare. Isn't it? So, he shifts the emphasis from wealth to welfare. So, what is wealth according to Alfred Marshall? He says wealth is not is not an end in itself, it is only a means to an end. Wealth is what? And not an end in itself, it is only a means to an end. That is, he regards wealth as only a tool. He regards wealth as what? Only a tool to satisfy human wants, isn't it? So he shifts the emphasis from wealth to welfare. Then the question arises as to how does he define economics? He says economics is a study of mankind in the ordinary business of life. He doesn't stop over there. He says it examines that part of the individual and social action which is most closely connected with what? Attainment of material requisites of human well-being. So according to Alfred Marshall, he says economics is what? Study of mankind. This is the first implication. See, through his definitions, we can derive certain implications. Firstly, he says the subject of economics is concerned only with reference to whom? The human beings. It is not a study to whom? Beasts or animals. It's a study of mankind, not of beasts or animals. When he says it's a study of mankind, with what aspect is it concerned with? With reference to ordinary business of life. What does it mean? As to how do we earn our income? How do we spend it? How do we save it? How do we use it? In other words, as we engage ourselves in economic activity, we tend to what? Earn our income, spend them, save them, and distribute them. This was what was concerned with reference to ordinary business of life, as to what an individual does in his day-to-day activities. He doesn't stop over there. He brings about an integration between twofold behavioral patterns. One is the individual behavior and number two is social behavior. See, he says, what is economics? Economics study of mankind, the ordinary business of life. It examines that part of the individual and social action which is most closely connected with what? Attainment of the material requisites of well-being. He brings about an integration between these two behavioral patterns. What is the basic objective of any individual? To maximize your satisfaction in terms of what? Wealth. Isn't it? See, even after my retirement, in fact, what is it I try to do? I engage myself in various types of economic activity in such a way that I can generate my income and thereby maximize my wealth, isn't it? So that is the basic objective. That was what was being emphasized by whom? Alfred Marshall. Isn't it? Likewise, what is the objective of any society? Maximize the well-being of the members of this society in terms of what? Again, wealth. So this what was being emphasized by whom? Alfred Marshall. Is it clear now? So these are the implications of what? The definition that was given by whom? Alfred Marshall. So now let us examine the criticism part of it. Firstly, Alfred Marshall says economics is not a study of wealth, rather it's a study of welfare. Isn't it? What aspect of welfare? Materialistic welfare. Though he says economics is not a study of welfare, but when he goes in for defining the subject of economics, he finally says the basic objective of the subject is attainment of what aspect of welfare? Materialistic welfare. So, the concept of wealth enters his definition through the back door. Concept of wealth enters his definition through the back door. This is the first criticism. Number two, Alfred Marshall says economics is a study of what? Welfare. What aspect of welfare? Materialistic welfare. Isn't it? There are several economic activities. Say, for example, the service of doctors, lawyers, teachers, so on and so forth. They are all definitely economic activities. They are also scarce by nature, but do not have what? Anything material in them. Such an idea is implicit in this definition. That is, they do not belong to the subject of what? Economics. They fall away from the purview of Alfred Marshall's definition of what? Economics. That is the second criticism. The third criticism is what? Alfred Marshall says economics is study of welfare. What aspect of welfare? Materialistic welfare. If that be the case, just examine carefully. There are two types of welfare that he discusses. One is materialistic welfare, the other is what? Ordinary welfare. Is it in reality of life to make a clear-cut distinction between what is materialistic welfare and what is ordinary welfare? It is very difficult to draw the line of difference as to what is welfare and what is materialistic welfare, because what is materialistic welfare in one situation becomes ordinary welfare in another situation. What is ordinary welfare in one situation becomes materialistic in another situation. So, on this ground also, the definition is subjected to severe criticism. Fourthly, they question whether it is possible to measure welfare. A.C. Pigou, again a great classical economist, he says money is a satisfactory measure of what? Welfare. Is money a satisfactory measure of welfare? Certainly not. Again, it is subjected to severe criticism. Fifthly, Alfred Marshall's definition turns the subject of economics into a pure social science. That is, his definition takes into account only those who fall within the ambit of what? Social outfit of the society. If you are not part of the society, you would not be taken into account in the study of what? The subject of economics. So, for example, the number of saints in India, isn't it? They do not live as ordinary members in the society. They live in the mountains, the hilly regions, or in the Himalayas. So, we have to exclude them, but it is not so. The subject of economics takes into account all the members of the society, whether they are within the ambit of the social organization or not. So, on this ground again, it has been subjected to criticism. And finally, in fact, the critics criticize Alfred Marshall's definition as what? As more classificatory rather than analytical. Let us not go into the two details of this particular aspect of criticism. We shall stop with this. Thank you.